Evening, y'all. Chief Prepper here. I just lived a little. I had some cheesecake. It's one of those things that when you start doing the diabetic diet, I don't do a lot of the diabetic diet, but when you cut out a lot of sugar, your body craves it. It's just like crack cocaine. So let's get on to what the title of this video is going to be. War. It's on everybody's minds these days. Especially if you're a parent, if you're a mother, if you're a wife, if you're a sister and you got a brother that may be called upon. The men will go first, and then if it gets bad enough, the women will come on after them. They may actually open up the draft to women, which I think is a mistake. Not because you're not worthy and you can't serve, but a woman can have a baby. Men cannot. It takes a man to help, but women are the child bearers of the world. Enough on that. So, you need to do some history research on what I'm going to say. But basically, since World War II, we haven't had all-out war where we killed everything. So some of you might be like, what does that mean? It means what I said. Korean War was the first war after World War II, or armed conflict, whatever you want to call them, and then Vietnam. Then Somalia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Iraq, Afghanistan, and whatever this next one is going to be mostly involved with, if it's not actually World War III. If we have war here on the ground in the States, you need to understand that you are going to be forced to comply with whoever is in charge. It will become warlordish, it will become tribal, and whoever's in charge you're going to have to live with that person's decisions. All right. We haven't had, well, after World War II, we had what was called civilized war, and what's coming is probably not going to be civilized. So you need to understand that. The war I was in was more civilized than not. I went twice, all right, and it's pretty fucking awful, even for somebody who was not a door kicker. All right. I've said often on this channel, when it starts, whenever it gets to wherever you're at, the days of getting 8 hours of sleep are over. The days of having leisure time will almost be mostly over, and most people aren't going to be able to handle that. Look at the latest 2 cell phone outages. People freaking out because their phones don't work. Neither outage affected me. I'm not on Facebook, so I didn't give 2 shits about that. My wife said she was never affected with the Facebook outage. So, there will be more blood and more killing than we've seen here in America in a long time. So understand that all the immigration, illegal immigration, newcomers, whatever the fuck YouTube wants you to call them, they're only coming to Western nations. They're not going to other third world nations. They're not going to China, and they're not going to Russia. So that should tell you something. All right. I do personally think we will be fighting here in America. I think it's going to be awful. So, even as much experience as I have, even as prepped as I am, I don't know if I'll be strong enough to make it. And to be honest, the non-civilized war will be new to me. The tactics of war will not be. Basically, you want to kill people. bad guys, enemies, whatever you want to call them. You know, civilized war where Iraq and Afghanistan, we had forward operating bases, we had walls that had towers with crew served weapons, guards, radios, comms. We had clean water. We had food, all right, readily available. So we had security, we had shelter, we had food, we had water. The only time we didn't have that is when we went out on missions. So, you know, you need to research the blood and gore that happens to this day in Africa with the warlords. You need to research my dog's chewing on something. The tribalism that happened with Native Americans. I'm not a fan of CRT, but you know, if you look around the world, there is one race that is responsible for a lot of injustices, and it's the white race. I'm half white, half Native American. All right, so you know, they're so awful that they used Native Americans against Native Americans when they were conquering America. You know, there's a reason that people say history is written by the victors, because there is a much different story told by Native Americans about Christopher Columbus and what his landing on, quote, Plymouth Rock started and meant for the Native American tribes and the nation of Indians. You know, they've done that. White European settlers, Spaniards, French, pick which ones from that time area, went around the world planting a flag on the ground saying it's mine. You know, to be honest, they were more educated, more learned than many other peoples, not all. Western civilization has never blended well with Eastern. When I say Eastern, I'm talking whether it's East Asia or West Asia, you know, Korea's, China's, Japan's, Mongolia way back when, and the other side, which is the Middle Eastern countries, starting down with in Africa, Horn Africa, Jordan, all those things. You know, the only reason the Middle East mattered is because the white men discovered they had water, or not water, oil. So almost all wars revolve around one thing: money. So you need to understand what that is. Like, lithium is supposed to be the next big thing, like more important than gold or silver, because they need it for smart cars, batteries, phones, everything. It looks more and more like war is coming. So you need to at least think about that, and think about it from the worst case scenario where, I guess worst case scenario where you're in a nuke strike area and you're dead. Second worst case scenario would be you're on the fringes, you've been contaminated, and you have a long, ugly death. In my case, I think the worst case scenario is surviving, because then you're faced with all the other people who are trying to survive. So imagine the fighting and killing and over resources that's going to happen. I mean, you see how we act with in Walmart with sales at Christmas time. Imagine now nobody has enough food, nobody has enough water. You know, supply system, everything breaks down, so you don't have parts, and you don't have you eventually don't have a car. You know, if you don't have a car, you're walking or you're riding a bicycle, maybe you're on a motorcycle, and then if you're the only one in the area that has that, then excuse me, then you're a target, just like Tom Cruise was with his daughter and son in the van and the War of the Worlds. You know, thousands of people walking, and he's driving through nice and slow and easy and being polite, and then, you know, it takes one person to say they want the van and the whole crowd jumps on his ass. So just do as much thinking as you can. It will take you down a dark path. You need to worst case scenario, best case scenario, and everything in between. You know, been advocating for people to buy plenty of shoes. One of the things that will, you know, when we were driving into Iraq, when I was driving north out of Kuwait first time, there were kids running up to the convoy in burlap sacks, no shoes, in the desert. I'm talking about rocks and shit. So, you know, their feet are tougher than ours because that's how they lived. You know, even the ones that were working on the base, most of the time all they had was sandals. So, you know, there's people would throw a lot of shade at Canadian Prepper, but I think he puts out a lot of relevant information, but some of it is hyperbole, and he is trying to sell you something. But he had a supposed ex-CIA analyst basically say, don't go to war in fucking flip-flops, wear boots. You know, taking a rock to your boot is completely different than taking a rock to your foot, or shrapnel, or, you know, pick whatever it is. So I only hope, have said this many times, I hope we have enough cowboys and cowgirls in America after everything starts to protect our way of life. So, you know, you need to understand the sheriffs won't come, police won't come, EMTs won't come, fire department won't come. You may run out of medication, you may run out of food and water. You know, I mean, it's a dismal, depressing thing to think about. But if you don't think about it, then you don't have any way to think about how to mitigate all those risks and all those factors that you will quickly discover sucks to think about. So anyway, it doesn't count gear, elbow pads, knee pads, durable clothing, clothing that will dry quickly, or thicker clothing that will keep you warmer when it's cold, insulated boots, regular summer boots, some shoes you can wear to let your feet air out, a way to stay clean. All right, the reason the rich back in the day could live longer was because they could stay cleaner. So cleanliness is a way for you to live longer. It's just the way it is. All right, so I encourage all of you to get out there and exercise as much as you can. Do what you can, because if it happens, if not all of us right away, at least a portion of us right away are going to be walking or riding a bicycle. And then, you know, even if you have a car, you know, I would recommend not using it unless you don't have to. The gasoline you have in your tank, as long as you keep the lid on tight, will last about 2 or 3 months. If you put some True Fuel treatment in it, or whatever the fuel treatment is, you know, it can get 6 months out of it like that. Proven it, because I rotate my fuel every 6 months. So anyway, this is a 14-minute video working on 15, so I've said enough. I still think war is coming. I'm not happy about it. It pisses me off because there's nothing I can do. I'm not in a good position or a good place down here. I'm in a good place and a good position, but I can't hold it by myself. So that's just the way that is. Even if I kill 100 people, there'll be 1,000 eventually. So start building a community, start getting to know your neighbors, like many other channels say. And unfortunately, you need to figure out which ones are the ones you need to deal with and the ones you need to welcome. All right. Information is knowledge and power. Live a little, prep a lot. Share love when you can. Chief Prepper.